Thank you so much for being there. I want to keep this session very, very interactive. So please feel free to ask any questions, stop me anywhere. If you feel like, no, this is not what we want to know something different. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you guys want to know today. It's more about you than about me, honestly. So let's keep it interactive. So honestly, I spent like first I finalized the idea and I spent immense number of hours on the company name and logo. And this was I still remember I was sitting in Starbucks in New York, and we had taken this paper and we were trying to we were like, okay, it's LogiNext, we are going to simplify logistics using technology, and having these brainstorming sessions on probably the logo should be something like a box and there's a Wi-Fi coming out of it, so it shows connecting packages. And now when I look back, I was like, what were we even trying to do, right? So one thing I would always tell now when I look back is name, logo, everything honestly is if your product is good, if your market is good, it doesn't matter what your name, what is the company name, what is the logo. And as a first, if it's your first company, you're super excited about what should be the name, what should be the logo, what should be the colors. But that's one thing you should not do. And I think the topic of this session was learning from others. Is it a myth or not, right? So a lot of people gave us all this gyan, right? All this information. Oh, don't do this, don't do that. Still, you will go ahead and do it. Honestly, I mean, you will listen to everyone, but at times, I think it's good to analyze why they are saying this, right? I mean, what is the reason behind them saying that don't do this, right? Don't hire fast or fire fast. What is the real reason behind it? So rather than just taking the advice as is, try to understand what does it really mean. How did they come to this conclusion? And maybe your decisions might be different, but you will be able to analyze the situation according to your own business understanding, according to what your customers want, and make the decisions accordingly. But this is one thing, a lot of people will come and go, give you a lot, like many I would say information in terms of what to do, what not to do. And genuinely we want people not to repeat the same mistakes as we did. But I think as entrepreneurs, we are generally stubborn and we would want to try and fail, knowing that we might fail, right? So just try to balance it out when it comes to decision making. Do listen to others and try to analyze the situation for your own context. Yeah, startup is all about repeatability, right? What we really did well at LogiNext, and this was one of the learnings we got from JioGenNext as well, that make things which are repeatable, right? When we say make things which are repeatable, what does it really mean? What should be repeatable? Right from your product building, your sales, your hiring practice, your customer success practice, everything should be repeatable. But then the question is, how do we make things repeatable from day one, right? Because you don't know what works, what doesn't work. And that's why it's absolutely okay to do things in early days which don't scale. A lot of people will come and tell you that, so let's say if you're selling in a very brute force manner, they might come and tell you this is not the right way to say to sell. What if you have 1,000 customers? Will you be able to talk to those 1,000 customers alone? But it's absolutely okay to do things in early months, I would say, which don't scale, because that's the only way you will be able to iterate fast and understand what is working, what is not working. Only once you know what is working, what is not working, you can actually build playbooks and frameworks according to that. But initially, do if you have to take a, as a founder, literally you do everything for the first year, right from building the product, selling to customers, making tea in the office, right? Literally everything. I mean, now obviously the co-working space culture is evolved a lot, so you don't have to make tea as such. But just don't think that, oh, I'm a founder, I can't do this, I'm a CEO, I can't do that. No, a founder has to literally do everything. And that's how you build the culture of getting hands dirty, right? Otherwise, if you hire some senior people, they'll be like, oh, this founder is also hands off. Why should I be hands on? But in your early days, you actually need a lot of people who are hands on in doing things, which just helps you iterate fast. And please, if you want to discuss something, if you have any questions, do stop me. Co-build with customers. Uh, this is an interesting one. So we have seen companies. You know what some companies do is we are building in stealth mode, which is good. But they'll be just building for 2 years, heads down, according to obviously your own gut, your own instinct, your own research. And then after 2 years, when you launch, you'll be like, wow, nobody wants to use my product, or it's so difficult to use the product, right? So always build along with the customers. This is something we did amazingly well at LogiNext, and we were lucky to, get those customers as well who were kind of our design partners with whom we were actually building the product. Because once you know that these are the requirements, more than requirements, what are the problems that users are facing, right? I mean, solutions can be formulated, but first you need to really understand the problem deeply. And if you continuously talk to your customers, you can really iterate fast. I mean, there would be definitely some products which need more time to build, and you have to be heads down and build things. But especially if you're doing a software company, be it B2C or B2B, we have the privilege of iterating fast, right? When you're doing hardware and all, of course, it's a little less practical. But for a software company, it's much easier to iterate fast. So make sure you are building along with your customers. And I mean, there are a lot of ways to actually, reach out to your early customers as well. In fact, what we had done, it was a very interesting way of telling the customers that you guys have a problem. So basically, our first product was into real time visibility. And wherever we went so we went to literally all the courier companies. Wherever we used to find a courier company on the street, just go to the office and ask them, what are the challenges you're facing in logistics? And they would be like, no, there are no challenges, our operations are perfectly fine. And we were like, wow, we'll have to break this, kind of bubble they are in. We'll have to burst the bubble by actually showing them, no, things are not right, there are improvements which can be made. So what we did, we started sending GPS trackers to our friends from Bombay to different cities. And we used to track our own GPS which we had sent, and we used to track and ask the company, where's my package? And the package, let's say the package is reaching from leaving from Bombay to Delhi, the package would still be in Bombay, and they'll be like, oh, it's midway to Delhi, and it's almost covered. So there are different hacks you need to find to make your customer realize that there is a problem. Because sometimes the customers might just say no, like, and especially I would say in India, nobody has a problem. No businesses have any problems, right? When they are talking to outsiders, they'll always be like, everything is fine. So yeah, co-build with your customers. Don't reinvent every wheel, right? I mean, there are amazing tools available these days. You can actually, build a startup without even coding. I mean, there are a lot of people who write long Twitter threads on this. I am honestly not sure how much of it is possible. I've read people make 5 million of revenue by not writing any code. But there are a lot of, no code tools. For example, payment gateways available, very simple things. Even for website, right? You don't really have to, these days, you don't have to code for website. So you don't have to reinvent every wheel. And as founders, you, whenever you see a problem statement, you're like, I can do this. ये फोड़ डालते हैं, right? I mean, that's the kind of feeling you get. But you don't need to do that. If you do this with everything, then you will lose focus. So you need to really keep the focus on your core competency, and rest of the things can be, done by others. Don't even worry about it. User empathy. How many of you know what is user empathy? Being in the user's shoes, right? Like understanding what is your user going through, how would they use the product. And there's a very, um, what do you think? US drivers are more tech savvy, or India drivers are more tech savvy? Okay, so our understanding was US drivers would be more tech savvy, right? As most of you, like, I think it was more of 50-50 here. So there was a very interesting observation we had. So we built a platform for India first, and Southeast Asia as well. The drivers in Southeast Asia and India were using the app like amazingly well. No questions asked. It was a very smooth experience, especially in Southeast Asia where you have, very young drivers like Gojek and Grab, all these kind of companies, right? And they are very, very young drivers. And when we launched in the US, we were like, we are not facing any issues in India and Southeast Asia, then why will we face issues in the US, right? Because they are more tech savvy and all of that. And the average age of drivers in the US is much higher than the average age of drivers in Asian countries. So they were really struggling with technology because they didn't even know how to use WhatsApp. A lot of our features were like, very simple, like WhatsApp chat. And they would really struggle in terms of using a smartphone. And you would not even imagine that, right? So you really have to empathize with your user, understand. And our designers used to be like, what is this? They don't even know how to use. I was like, not that they don't know how to use. We don't know how they use technology. So we need to understand how they are using technology and not blame the users. Sometimes users are to be blamed, but not always, right? Scale is relative. Uh, don't build for millions and billions on day one. You will never be able to go to market, right? Find, do you really need to build for thousands, millions, or billions? I mean, of course, if you're Geo, you will build for trillions on day one. So that's a different story altogether. But as a startup, just find what your scale should be, right? Be it product, be it team. I mean, rather than hiring a lot of people and then firing, it's always better to keep scale, according to the stage at which you are in. Prioritize. I think, this is one thing we are not taught in our academics, right? I mean, I don't think we have any courses which actually teach time management and prioritization. While these two things are like really important for a founder, really, really important for entrepreneur, because there will be so many things, you will be like overwhelmed, literally overwhelmed with a lot of things. But you need to understand that what's the right thing to do right now. Like, should I make tea, or my candidate is waiting, should I take an interview, right? I mean, not that level of priorities, but generally giving you example. So you will always be overwhelmed with a lot of things. So just I mean, there's no one way to do it. Obviously, once you get into those shoes, we can, definitely talk about it more. But prioritization and time management is, definitely one of the things which can make or break your startup in terms of prioritization, right? Because when you're building now, you will find a lot of other problem statements which are lucrative. You're like, oh, this company is doing so and so, let me also do this. But if you don't prioritize, you are not compounding on the efforts which you have already put. And I'm not sure how many of you are into investments, stock investments, and so on, right? And like everywhere they talk about compounding, right? Whenever it comes to money, wealth, we talk about compounding. So it's true for efforts as well in startups. If you keep on doing 100 things together, you will not be able to compound on any one thing. So I think, just prioritization is something which definitely should be taken into consideration. There are no shortcuts. There's nothing called overnight success. Companies they take years to succeed, right? Be it a $1 million company, $100 million company, a $1 billion company. All these companies have started like in 2008, 9, and now Zomato went public. We're like, wow, this guy is so lucky. But he was the one who created the category in India, right? Just imagine the challenges he would have faced when people don't know that there's an option to order food online in India. So it's not easy for sure, but it's fun. That's something I can definitely promise you. Okay, I'll skip this one as you guys will be starting up, not but just focus on your. I think one thing I would like to talk about here is have customer obsession as one of the most important cultural values in your company. Like if every person in your company is obsessed about the customer, they will do the right thing. And if everyone does the right thing in the same direction, it is killer growth, right? It is like nobody can stop you. Absolutely nobody can stop you. So make customer obsession as really one of the most important values in your culture. Yeah, every team member has to do literally everything. I mean, right from talking to customers, going on the field, selling, building, testing. So hire in a way where just be upfront with people that you have to do this. So there was this interesting when our first person, literally the first person joined, and he came to the office. He was like, oh, I was expecting there would be wires all around, in a startup it would be in a, like, I know it's an office, but I thought it would be more like a garage or kind of a office with very shabby place and all, but this is a very neat place. Are you guys really working on a startup? So people will have like totally crazy expectations, right? Because what they read outside is what they will expect. So it's always good to talk about these things upfront with especially early team members, because they are the ones who are going to support you in your journey, right? I mean, you can't do it alone, right? You have to have a team. So it's always good to talk to people about all the cultural values that you have right in the beginning, because anyways, building a startup is tough. Finding customers is difficult, right? Proving yourself in the market is tough. You don't want additional internal pains of teams and all of that. Well, that's also unavoidable. But the more you can avoid it in the beginning, it's always the best, because that's the culture you set for other people as well then. Okay, you're students, so I'm sure you guys believe in documentation. But once you start working, you will stop believing in documentation. So please don't do that. And especially, I know engineers. So I was the CTO, right? I was leading engineers, product design. Engineers hate documentation. Like absolutely, they just want to keep on writing code, not even put comments over the code. Just keep on writing code. But documenting is like, it really is a gold mine for the company. All the mistakes that you make, why did you take such a decision, why did you go with plan A, not plan B? It just helps others avoid the same mistakes. So continue with this habit that students have of documentation, not copying assignments, but creating real documents. Because I think, beat any team, documentation, like, otherwise it's one of the debts which is very difficult to solve, because it's the most boring thing. So I'm totally, agreeing that it is a very boring thing. Like, documenting is the most boring thing, but it is an unavoidable thing. So just learn to love it, and then you will never have problems. Sunsetting. Yeah, so this is, one thing. As founders, we are like deeply attached to our ideas, right? We are deeply attached to people, ideas, product, so many things. But sometimes you have to let it go. Sometimes when, let's say, your company is scaling, you have to, let go of some things. You have to let go of some decisions. You might have to, pivot as well. Let's say one product is not working well. Rather than keeping on trying on the same thing for years and years, probably pivoting is an option. And it's really heartbreaking. It's very, very difficult when you have to let go of a team member, or you have to let go of a feature, or you have to let go of a client as well sometimes, right? Sometimes you might feel this client is too demanding, and that one enterprise is just pulling us down. So you have to let go, and learning to let go, honestly, is one of the biggest challenges which I think any founder faces. But if you have this skill, honestly, it's like, and there are a lot of books on this, by the way. But again, till we don't make the mistakes, we don't learn. So it's going to continue that. Yeah, this is, so from day one, make sure you're spending 30%, like initially 50% time, but even as you scale, you really need to spend time on hiring, because you can't do everything on your own. And there will be weird surprises in the beginning. So for us, basically, our first engineer joined, and the first person I was talking about, that wire and garage wala, he was a business guy. When first engineer joined, he he came in the morning on time, super excited. Let's talk about vision, this, that. We gave him the roadmap. And as founders, you're always excited to talk to people, right? And he went for lunch at 2 o'clock. He never came back. Literally, like, we never saw him. And we were like, wow, this is crazy. I mean, what happened to him? So, it was such a down moment for us, right? Now I can laugh about it, but during then it was like, oh my God, what happened? How will we'll be able to build a product? How will we hire people? So, because we had also come back from US, right? And usually people don't do this there, right? I mean, if especially if they're committing you, they will join. Not at the last moment on Sunday night when you try to call them, either they'll not pick up the phone, or someone's grandmother would have died, someone's dad would have been in hospital, and they'll not join, right? So we realize, we have to actually unlearn a lot of things. And that is a process in entrepreneurship. There will be a lot of times when you will have to unlearn things, right? Sometimes from your past, sometimes while you're running the company. The skills that you will need to go from 0 to 1 versus 1 to 10, 10 to 100 will be very different. And you have to keep on evolving. You have to, like, really keep on scaling with your startup, which is very tiring. Like, it's not easy. It is really tiring. So, I mean, if you are able to find a good coach, mentor, advisor, do that. I mean, I personally have a coach, and it helps me a lot, because there will always be times when you will feel like, am I able to scale with the company? Because that's what company needs, right? If the company is growing, if customers are growing, you need to grow as well. And you need to grow faster than the company is growing, because you need to see what will happen 5 years down the line, not what is happening now. And you need to make decisions accordingly. So, yeah, we went from hiring to coaching, but very, very critical, spend time in hiring, get a good team in place, if possible, get some senior folks in place who can actually be your founding team members. Yeah, and if you can't make a decision, even if you're very desperate, you know you're going to miss a deadline, just don't hire. You will 100%. Again, I'm telling you this. I know I have, like, so many people told this to me. I still went ahead, made the same mistake, hired in desperation, and then it didn't work out. Yeah, that's the most important tip from me. Enjoy and have fun while building. It is a roller coaster ride. Like, I mean, it's not easy. It's absolutely not easy. I mean, you will have to forget people's birthday or close ones, weddings sometimes. There are so many things you have to do. Not always, but there there are a lot of sacrifices that we have to make, right? But it's very, very important to enjoy the process, to enjoy the journey. If you're not, then next morning you will not really have that fire in your belly to get up and do it again, because every day you will face new challenges. Sometimes there will be a client churn, sometimes investors would have given you a term sheet, they will pull out, sometimes some VP would have resigned. Every day there are going to be challenges, but it's really important to have fun while building and just enjoy the journey. I mean, this is what will, I think, make it worth the pain that you are taking. If you don't enjoy it, if you're in stress always, just don't do it. Honestly, it's not worth it. It's absolutely not worth it, because when you're enjoying it, you will learn more, right? And you will do things in a better way. So just do it. And, like, absolutely everyone should taste this, I would say, blood of entrepreneurship. It's an addiction, honestly. Once you become an entrepreneur, you feel like, no. So currently, last year, so I took a break, right? And I was like, who will hire me? I don't think I can really even crack one interview. That was my this thought process. And I was like, looks like I can't do anything else, so it's better to start another company. At least that is something I think I can do, right? So I think entrepreneurship is an addiction, and it is a good addiction. I know that there will be highs and lows. It's going to be difficult again, but I think I'm up for it. And that's just because, I enjoyed my journey thoroughly in the last one. So make sure you do that too. Yeah, that's pretty much it from my side. Any? Thank you.
There was a recent case wherein like famous startup, the founder posted on LinkedIn that they had some misjudgments, and because of that they had to lay off certain employees. So what is your take on that? And I saw on one of your slides you mentioned that startups should avoid taking debt. So what is your take on the current VC funding scenario in India? And I would love to know your thoughts. Thank you.
Sure. No, absolutely. So on the debt piece, by the way, I meant, so this one, right? Yeah. So when I say avoid debt, basically it's not the financial debt, first of all, it's more of your decision debt, right? So when you're building a product, when you're building your architecture, if you take shortcuts, there will be technical debt or there will be product debt. And to correct that debt is very, very difficult. So don't build for, again, millions and billions if it is not required, but don't have a short term thinking. So that debt part is more on, the product debt more than financial debt. On, I wouldn't comment on a single startup in terms of corporate governance, but at LogiNext, we were super, super strict about this. And I think one benefit was because we came from consulting background. right? And that really helped us a lot to build the right processes in first go itself. I mean, not a lot of processes, because you don't want to slow down your team, or you don't want to slow it down for your customers, but put the right processes in place so that such issues don't happen. And so from firing point of view, we have never done layoffs. We have to let go some people, not because of layoffs, not because of financial reasons, just because of their performance. In our 8 9 years, we have never done layoffs because we were always lean with hiring. We never wanted to hire thousands of people, because so that's the mindset shift which is happening in India now. Earlier, the success of a company was the number of employees the company has, right? And now that is changing. People want to have a lean team. That I mean, we had what team of 150 to 200 people, and we were selling in around 40 countries. So I mean, obviously, all these corporate governance issues are not acceptable, and you have to be, as a founder, you are the first one to take those steps, right? That's the culture you build. If you build a culture of discipline, then that is going to continue. Did I answer your question?
And the second part regarding the VC funding. So, what's your take on that? If you can shed some light on that.
Anything in specific, like should you take VC funding, should you not, or what?
Like we see firms raising a series A, then they quickly burn out, and then they want a series B. So without any part to profitability, we see many startups are there which are like keeping on raising funds, and the Tiger Globals and the Sequoias of the world are happy to fund them, but eventually they need to prove a profitable outlook. So if you can shed some light on that as well, I would be grateful.
Well, Tiger is an investor in LogiNext as well, and we are super happy with them. So, no comments there. See, there are always these cycles, and it's just not startups. These cycles are there in public market as well. So there's a bear market, there's a bull run, there's a bear market. Then in bull market, there's a huge FOMO which happens, where there's a lot of capital and investors want to invest in people. So I think this is more of a cycle, and what we are seeing now is an impact of more macroeconomic conditions. It's just not one startup or the other. It is more macroeconomic conditions, and it always flows down from public markets to private markets, right? And now if you see, there is still a lot of investment happening in early stage companies. Lots of investment happening. The investments have slowed down, and I don't have any data honestly, but I think the investments have slowed down for very late stage companies or who are planning to go IPO, and that's because of the macroeconomic conditions. Now valuations is a very very subjective thing, right? Should it be 5x, 10x, 100x? I don't know. I'm not the best person to comment on that. It totally depends on the business model, on the potential. Not all startups are same, right? Some will succeed, some will fail, and even the ones who are failing, at least they are trying, right? And yeah, like there shouldn't be any corporate governance issues. That's something I'm totally not pro for. But there might be some business model issues, some or the other issues. So if there is more and more investor money coming in, at least people are trying, people are getting a chance to try it out, and only when you try it out you will get to know if you succeed or not. So it's I think it's more to do with that, those cycles we always have every 4 5 years, and it's going to continue. That's not going to change.
Thank you so much, Manisha. Thank you.
During the startup initial phase, you might have gone through some legal issues from competitors or somewhat like that. If I am not so, like how could you tackle that things?
Have a very good lawyer.
But
There
at
will
this
always be issues. There will
started,
always be issues.
but initial phase, how like did you manage the lawyer and all the things? You had budget and all the things.
You have to make budget for it. You have to make budget for things which keeps your company running, right?
So what were the first initial things you like were working on during the startup? Like
See, you will always find people in your network, honestly, right? I mean, For example, JioGenNext accelerator. If you're just a part of such accelerators, you will have a strong network. And like if you compare lawyers in India versus lawyers in US, lawyers in India are super affordable. Like you will be, when you see the lawyers in US, like rate of lawyers in US, you'll be like, I don't even want to do a company there. They are so expensive. So it's all relative. I think expensive or not expensive, it's a very relative thing. But build a network of people, and these services are like honestly easily available in India. I mean, that's the beauty of India. With so many people, so many professionals, we don't have to pay a lot for everything, right? So build this network, have a join an accelerator, or keep on finding mentors, and you will find, be it lawyers, CAs, everything in your network.
Thank you.